The resurrection of Jesus is a core truth that, along with his death on the cross, sets Christianity apart from all other religions. The Bible describes Jesus' resurrection with a unique expression: the first fruits. But now Christ has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. 1 Corinthians 15:20. But each in his own order. Christ the first fruits, after that those who are Christ's at his coming. 1 Corinthians 15:23. Why is Jesus' resurrection described as the first fruit of those who are asleep? And why is his resurrection a guarantee of the future resurrection for all believers when he returns? What did first fruits mean to the Jews? Just like the words such as first love or wedding night carry a strong emotional image depending on culture and tradition, the term first fruits held a deep and specific meaning for the Jewish people. For Jews, the term first fruits immediately bring to the mind the plague on the firstborn that struck Pharaoh of Egypt, a decisive blow that led to Israel's freedom. Israel is God's firstborn, and through striking Egypt's firstborn, God rescued his people. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, Thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, my firstborn. So I say to you, let my son go that he may serve me. But you have refused to let him go. Behold, I will kill your son, your firstborn. Exodus 4:22-23. Hebrew word for first fruit is bikkur, and the plague of the firstborn is called makat bikoret. These two words come from the same Hebrew root. The first son, the firstborn, and the first fruits of the field both represent what is first. So the term first fruits naturally carried a sense of the freedom and deliverance for the Israelites who had escaped slavery in Egypt. What is the relationship between first fruits and the feast of the first fruits? The Hebrew calendar, from the 15th to the 21st day of the first month, Nisan, Jews eat unleavened bread called matzah in Hebrew. This week is known as the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The day after the Sabbath during this week is a Feast of First Fruits, always a Sunday. The feast is named because that's when the first sheaf of barley was offered in the temple. At dawn after the Sabbath, people went out to cut down the barley sheaf that had been tied on Passover, Nisan 14. As crowds cheered, the sheaf was reaped and brought to the temple. The priests waved before the Lord toward the west, the direction of the Holy of Holies, standing at the northeast of an altar. Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, When you enter the land which I am going to give you and gather its harvest, then you shall bring in the sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest. He shall weigh the sheaf before the Lord for you to be accepted. On the day after the Sabbath, the priest shall weigh it. Leviticus 23:10-11. Afterward, the barley was ground into fine flour, offered with oil and incense as a grain offering. A portion was burned on the altar with a male lamb as a burnt offering, and the rest of the flour was eaten by the priest. Also, if you bring a grain offering of early ripened things to the Lord, you shall bring fresh heads of grain roasted in the fire, crushed grain of the new growth for the grain offering of your early ripe thing. You shall then put oil on it and lay incense on it. It is a grain offering. Leviticus 2:14-15. Now on the day when you wave the sheaf, you shall offer a male lamb 1 year old without defect for a burnt offering to the Lord. Its grain offering shall then be 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, an offering by fire to the Lord for a soothing aroma, with its drink offering, a fourth of a hin of wine. Leviticus 23:12-13. After the offering, people in Jerusalem could start selling and eating grain from the new harvest. When did Jesus rise from the dead? When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they might go and anoint Jesus' body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb. Mark 16:1-2. Jesus died on Passover, and he rose again the day after the Sabbath, which was the feast of first fruits. On that morning, as crowds were heading out of the fields to harvest barley for the first fruits offering, Mary and the other were heading to the tomb, grieving. According to Jewish texts as the Mishnah, the barley offered on first fruits came from the plain of Gennesaret in the north of Galilee. The soil there is rich and black due to volcanic basalt, which absorbs and retains heat, making it the first place in the land to produce a barley harvest. By contrast, Jerusalem, located at 800-meter elevation, would not be ready for harvest until a month or two later. So, offering the first barley from Gennesaret was an expression of faith, an expectation of the full harvest to come throughout Israel. This concept that the part represents the whole is central to Jewish thought in the Old Testament. Offering the first portion, grain, fruit, or lamb, was a way to thank God for the whole harvest. The Apostle Paul, a Jew, expressed the same thought in Romans. If the first piece of dough is holy, the lamb is also. And if the root is holy, the branches are too. Romans 11:16. Jesus rose on the morning of first fruits, just as the offering was being made in the temple. In this way, he became the first fruit of those who have died in Christ. But now, Christ has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. 1 Corinthians 15:20. Just as the first barley from Gennesaret began the wider harvest across Israel, Jesus' resurrection as the first fruits points to the future resurrection of all believers. It is a guarantee and prophetic sign that all who belong to him will also rise, but each in his own order. Christ the first fruits, after that those who are Christ at his coming. 1 Corinthians 15:23. As mentioned, the barley from the temple offering came from the plain of Gennesaret, a triangle of land including Capernaum, Chorazin, and Bethsaida, the very region where Jesus performed the most miracles in ministry. That Jesus rose from the dead on first fruits, and that the barley offering came from the same place where he ministered most, is surely no coincidence. It is a part of God's divine plan of redemption laid out from before the founding of the world. Yet sadly, the people of the region, despite witnessing many miracles, did not believe. Jesus pronounced woes upon these cities. Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the miracle that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than you. And you, Capernaum, will you be lifted to heavens? No, you will go down to Hades. If the miracle that were performed in you had been performed in Sodom, it will have remained to this day. Matthew 11:21-23.